Well, good morning, everybody. Good evening, g'day. Wherever you are in the world, it's a different time for everybody. This is Grant. You can tell by my eyes that it's early morning here for me. Really excited to join with you. By the way, if you are live, then please play along, talk to us. If you're watching this in a replay, you can do that as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you can get involved in the comments. There's plenty of ways for this to be more than a two-way conversation. So I'm really, really excited because I get to interview another amazing coach this morning. It's evening for her. She's in the UK. She's a lady that I got the pleasure of meeting probably nearly a couple of years ago now, who's doing amazing things all around the world with emotional intelligence. And, you know, that's what this group is all about, is helping and encouraging and developing and mentoring emotional intelligence practitioners and those who are looking to specialize in that area as well. So without any further ado, I'm not going to read her bio. You can read that in the the transcript. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself as I ask her some questions. But let me bring on now the amazing Lindsey Capp. Hey, Lindsey.
Hey, that's a great intro. I love that. The amazing Lindsey Capp. Brilliant.
I'm sure you hear that all the time.
All
So,
the
Lindsey,
time. Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. I know it's later in the evening there in the UK, and you're still looking amazing. My eyes are hanging out of
Thank
my
you.
head because I know well it's early morning here. But I just want to keep this really, really casual. I want to just ask you some questions. It's like you and I are having a conversation, and allow some of what's on you to permeate out into our members. So I want to start by just asking you to just tell us a little bit of your journey as a coach. You know, what prompted you to get started, and just a little bit about your journey. That'd be great.
Okay. So, in brief, I was 40 years old, 41, and I was going through really challenging times of parenting my three children and noticing that my past was really showing up in my parenting. So a lot of the things that, I mean, if you have children, you're like, I don't want to do it like my parents did it, and I don't want to do that to my children, and la la la. And I ended up starting to seek out some self-development on who am I really went through a who am I? What am I? Am I just a mom? What am I about? What am I going to create in the world? So I ended up going into self development at the late age of 40, 41. Read my first book at 41 as well, Grant. Hadn't really read, didn't really have a background in IQ, but felt loads of emotion that I really didn't know how to regulate and be with, and wasn't really aware, and it was taking me over. So hence I went down into self-development. So I went into NLP. I did the diploma practitioner masters, and even went on to become a trainer in NLP. But there was a gap for me. So I'd done the coaching, I'd done the NLP, I'd had huge insights into myself and the creation of my being, you know, who I was really being with emotion. And there was a gap. And the gap was, and it was crazy because I had been hired by British Aerospace to come in and do some coaching. And they were running an emotional intelligence workshop and asked if I wanted to sit in. And it just blew me away how emotional intelligence was the gap. It was what joined all the dots together for me, which intrigued me. So I went down, and emotional intelligence literally took me down how we create really from a center and from a heartfelt state, and bringing in then all the other bits really upscaled me into being able to hear deeper and to really, sorry, that was my notifications, really just come from a deeper way of listening that was from my heart, which then helped me to hear other people and transform. And then I went on and just developed a limited company from this little bedroom, turned into six figures from this little space. And it's continually going from strength to strength, just in realizing it's not about the tools and techniques. It's really about us. So
Fantastic.
that's the brief. That's the brief.
Love
Brief
that.
side, Grant. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, look, and I find whoever I talk to is that it comes out of an internal desire or need. Excuse me, I've got a croaky voice today.
It's all right.
Internal desire and need for ourselves, and that desire for personal development. I see so many coaches that then turn that into a passion to help others. So I love that. And that leads me on to another question, and that is, just quickly, why do you think emotional intelligence is so important right now?
For me personally, we're now in a way of being where digital, technology and everything is now creating space where the connection isn't at the forefront. We don't socialize the same. We don't pick up the telephone the same. So a lot of it is now in the thinking, which then detaches us from really being with the emotional side of us. So when we're not with it enough, when we're not investigating it, when we're not feeling it as much as we used to, it can have an overwhelming effect, I believe, of shock and fear and anxiety. And so for me, emotional intelligence really is, we need to understand how important it is to balance the thinking and the emotion itself, to create a way of being that allows us to be with the shadow ways of us, so the fears and the uncertainty, in a loving way. Emotional intelligence gives us that underpinning of understanding that stops it being a detriment, stops it being a negative. So, in this day and age right now, I think more than ever, we want to learn how to connect deeper with people, how to see and hear and feel things much more from the heart than we do from the head.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I really, really love that. And what's exciting for us as emotional intelligence practitioners is finally the talk out there, in the places where people listen, are finally realizing that EI skills are up here. They're not some warm and fuzzy soft skills that are nice to have. They are the
Yeah.
keys for people to be able to, move forward and become who they need to become and create what they want to create in the world. And I'm really excited how organizational side of things are starting to catch up with that. I always have a
Yeah.
bit of a laugh because, you've probably heard of Gary V. Everyone's heard of Gary V.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
A
yeah,
couple of
yeah.
years ago, I remember seeing an interview with Gary V. And Gary V said, and I quote, that emotional
Yeah.
intelligence are the number one skills that we all need, to be successful in life. So if Gary V
Mm.
says it, then hey, it definitely must be true. So
Who
that's
are we?
that's exactly right. So we can agree.
Yeah.
So okay, so the next thing I want to know is help us to understand, and the reason I'm asking this question, even though I know my answer and the practitioners watching know their answer, I want
Mhm.
your answer. So what can emotional intelligence actually help people to achieve through being coached and trained in that area?
I mean, everybody's unique, but if we were to generalize, creating it's having a creating perspective. So rather than having a black and white way of thinking, feeling, right and wrong, good and bad, we're going to really come from a perspective, which is we're going to create from many, many wisdoms to be with whatever it is, whatever difference it is. So for me, it's definitely about creating perspective is why emotional intelligence is important, because without it, all you have is the knowledge. We're talking about the feeling. And we're talking about how do you want to create it in your uniqueness. So EI isn't about it's a one fit all way of being. It's about you. It's about you, which is about me, which is about us. So it makes us, for me, it's one source. EI is one source, and that's humanity. We're all branching off and doing our thing, but if we come from an EI perspective, we're coming to the main source of humanity. And that's all of us, all the same, no difference. And the way that we'll create together more powerfully in the world is literally by coming from this perspective, because we can create anything from here. And it comes from this pure source of love is humanity. We are love. So for me, it's the essence of it. It's the absolute essence.
Wow, I love that. And your passion for what you do, I already know that, but I'm sure now that our listeners can definitely also see that
Yeah.
passion. Yeah, and I love the word that you
Mm.
used in there, and that is create. So one of my biggest challenges that I'm taking on, as you know, as a leader in this field, is to be able to bring emotional intelligence up to where neuroscience currently is, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of misunderstandings, rightfully so, around what emotional intelligence is, let alone how emotions are formed, etc. And I love that you use the word created. And for those who aren't aware, and I'd really recommend that you read her book. Lisa Feldman Barrett has an amazing book. She's actually a scientist. So that, they say if you want to learn neuroscience, go to a neuroscientist. And she talks about the theory of constructed emotions and how we're not born with a triune brain that's got five hardwired emotions, and everyone experiences fear the same way, and and that's the
Mm.
essence of what you just said. We are all unique, and we
Mm.
actually construct through interoception, perception, prediction of the brain, etc. Let's not go too deep into it, Grant. We construct our emotions, right? So
Mm.
I think that's very powerful for people to understand that
Yeah.
emotional intelligence is a set of competencies and strategies. However, it's unique to everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to jump off my soapbox because it gets me going all the time, because there's so much in our profession, right? There's so many
Yeah.
people who say things with what I call uh, the arrogance of absolution rather than the confidence of a coach, right? And that is to go, this is the way it happens. And I think
Yeah.
it's on us as practitioners to keep up with what science is finding out. And that's why I love how she called it to the theory of constructed emotion, because that's with our current understanding and our current level of fMRIs and all those sort of things. That is the current understanding. So we're not able to say absolutely, right? And then we've got these whole things of people going, which one's more important, IQ or EQ? Well,
Oh,
neither's more
that
important,
question.
because we need IQ, we need cognitive ability to be able to practice strategies of EI, right? And which comes first? Is an emotion and a feeling the same thing? Well, it's actually not, but it doesn't matter in terms of
No.
who we're working with. If they,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes what we can do, and I mean me as well, I was, doing this as well, is we can actually complicate things too much by trying
Yeah.
to sound like we know more than we actually do, right? And yeah, so I think that's really, really important. So
And there's something there, Grant, that you
yeah,
just said
please.
just before, because there's something in the fact of not knowing is the power. Where emotional intelligence really sits, when we're in the knowing, we're going to limit ourselves in what's possible to come in. So, actually, what we're saying now is now you know all this information and this neuroscience and everything else. It's like, that's great. But can we create a space that's EI where you're not going to know and you're going to love not knowing? Because that gives us a space and opportunity to create. We can't create in the knowing. So when they say which one comes first, I'm going to put my hand up every time and just go, I definitely want to be in the EI first, because if I'm in the not knowing, then what comes up from that is just going to add to the knowing. So for me, it's that way around.
Yeah, yeah, love that. So I have a favorite competency, and I know you and I use a slightly different model, but that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No.
If of all the competencies you deal with, what is your favorite to work with people with? Well, for yourself personally, and to work with others.
Okay. So my first one definitely was around um mine was independence and assertiveness, on really showing up in too high, too much, and not knowing just how to the detriment of me that was. Just turning that down and making space for the social side. If I'm always going it alone and I'm always up there thinking I know or needing to know, as I said, that makes me very lonely. That makes a lonely disconnect. So for me, I love working with empathy with others. So I find empathy massively high with people because we've been brought up, to put other people first, and it's selfish and that sort of thing. So people actually learning that too higher in empathy really affects their sort of self-esteem, self-worth. We want to be bringing in more balance, or certainly more understanding of when we're going to turn that up or turn that down, to make sure that we're in service not only to others but to ourselves, so that we feel all those emotions of self-worth, but we create them for ourselves, that they're not dependent on somebody outside. So for me, Grant, massively the interpersonal side of things, and really the self-love every day of the week, turning that one up and coming from that, coming from an authenticity that's come from a creation of understanding all day long.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, and mine is personal power, which is, what you're talking about there comes from that. And for me, I think this is such a valid point, is that um, until we have that inner certainty, that personal power, self-worth, self-confidence, whatever you,
Mm,
would like to call it,
mm,
we're not able to then practice things like empathy, which is seen as a good thing, and it is when it's used in its right place.
yeah,
We're not able to actually practice that in a healthy way for us.
yeah,
And for me, it's all a balance of having taking care of others with a balance of taking care of self. I love to talk. I use
absolutely.
this all the time. I love to talk about mums. Right, mums are fantastic. My mum was the greatest mum on the planet when she was here. She's probably the greatest mum in heaven now. But for
Yeah.
me, and I don't mean she's probably in heaven, she is, but I'm just not
All
going to
right.
say she's the greatest mum, right? So, because everyone's got a mum. And
Yeah.
yeah, with mums, like, sort of, if let's say there's four people at the dinner table, mum's one of them, and there's only, three lamb chops, I mean, who's going to miss out? Well, it's mum, because mum goes, well, it's my job to nurture the family but here's the thing. Although it's done with a great intention and it's done with love, it's actually not very smart. It's counterintuitive. Because here's the thing, if mum doesn't eat and mum falls off the perch, nobody eats. And I think that's something that's really, really important that you've brought out there, is that as coaches, we need to make sure that you know, we start with self, that we look after self. Self care
Absolutely.
is not selfish. It's self
No.
care so that you are able then to walk in the destiny that you have of, helping the people in the world that you're designed to, you're designed to help. So I think it's really, really important that as coaches we understand that it's okay. And one of the things that I do in our certification program is I encourage, and 99.9% of the people do, I encourage people to go through that for themselves. Yes, the ultimate thing is you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it
yeah.
to be part of your practice, but go through that and
No.
give yourself the gift
Yeah.
of increasing your own emotional and social intelligence, so that you can help others without it burning you out, without it, being a negative
Yeah.
thing. I love that.
Yeah, and also, Grant, otherwise it becomes a strategy to gain, which never ever feels authentic and can never actually be transformational. We want to come from service as coaches, and so we can only ever be in service of someone through non-agenda. So if we're going out to do EI to get, it's never going to work because it's not true pure EI. EI is your being, is your authentic self, is your uniqueness, and you are the mirror of possibility for another person.
Yeah.
So you are the teacher of being, and it has to go in that order as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And I know
100%.
you mean this. I'm going to say it though, in case others don't sort of get that. It's okay to have a successful 6, 7 figure, whatever people use, um, EI practice. Because for
Oh,
me,
100%.
you,
I've got
yeah,
one.
yeah, exactly.
I've got
So
one.
for me, it's like it's a byproduct though. So that's what I
Yeah,
believe you're saying there is that we go, yeah, and
yeah,
serve.
yeah.
And by
We
the
go
way,
us.
because my biggest challenge as well is seeing coaches who only serve, and because their own personal power is low, they're not able to accept and therefore their
Yeah,
pricing's lower and all this sort of stuff. They're not able to
yeah.
accept. So it's
It's that
a,
balance.
it's a big balance. I love it. All
Yeah,
right, so
absolutely.
I really enjoyed talking to you, and we're sort of running out of time here, but I want to ask you
Go on.
one final question.
Yeah.
So, where do you see you as an EI practitioner 12 months from now?
12 months from now. Do you know what? Honestly, I like to think that everything is achievable. I couldn't have envisaged where I am now 12 months ago and then 12 months before that. So I think I certainly set the vision of um, serving more people. So for me, it's more about serving lots of people as often as I can, and then having unique people who want to really upscale and doing them. So serving more people through internet, through talks, through networks, through businesses, bringing it into corporate, like you said. Personally, I love traveling. So, I'd love to think that I would be traveling around more to do more in person trainings. That for me now would be the next 12 months. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that. And yeah,
Thanks.
I'm a little bit stir crazy right now because our borders are slightly opening. Um, but yeah, since bringing EI into my practice, 13 years ago now, I've had the blessing of traveling physically to 22 countries, and more
That's
than once
amazing.
in many of those countries. Um, yeah, and now that we're doing more online, by the way, I don't call it virtual because virtual isn't real, right? I just call it
Okay.
online. It's just a new way of doing it. We're still doing the same thing. Is Yeah, we cover even more people.
Yeah.
We're able to cover even more people. Like this interview is going to go out to more people than if you and I were doing a circuit going around, talking to people around the world. So
Yeah.
I see, 12 months from now that this community itself is going to be filled with at least 1,000 emotional intelligence practitioners at various levels that are making a huge impact. So that's my goal right now, is to develop more
Lovely.
people to do what I do,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's the need and the understanding of the need for emotional intelligence and social intelligence skills
Yeah.
is growing. So we need to grow the practitioners so that they can go and fill the need. So yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah,
Hey,
lovely,
Lindsay,
lovely.
I've really, really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure
Thanks. Yeah,
those that are, watching it live here, and those who are watching in the replay are going to get so much out of this. Please make
great.
sure that you jump in the comments wherever you're watching this and give Lindsay heaps of love, for at her busy time with 3 kids of the night time, popping in and, looking fantastic still
Thank you.
after 8 o'clock at night, and sharing from her heart. Please
Yeah,
help me in giving her heaps of love. and I look forward to having more conversations with you again. So thanks, Lindsey.
Lovely. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, everyone, how amazing was that? So make sure you give Lindsey heaps of love, and we're going to continue to speak to coaches all around the world, and then and interview them in this way. If you're watching this somewhere and you're not yet in emotional intelligence coaching and you haven't joined the Facebook group, it's the Emotional Intelligence Coach Community. You can jump on in there. If you're in the group but you're not yet, you're there looking to see if this is something for you, please get engaged, ask questions. I really, really want to see more highly successful emotional intelligence practitioners around the world so that we can together do what it is that we need to do. So I love you all heaps. Look forward to seeing you in the group more this week, and I'll see you next week with another interview. Bye for now.